Hello friends, let's discuss today about anticoagulant rodenticide. So first let's just break this down. So what is rodenticides? Rodenticides are anything which is used to kill the rodents. These are actually chemicals which is used to kill the rodents. Rodents like mice and rats, etc. As we all know that rodents like mice, rat, etc. cause very much problem in the farm and field conditions, and also in the storage of grains. It also pose nuisance in the warehouses and in house also. They are very much infamous to torn the clothes, etc. in the houses. So rodenticides are very important product which is used these days to kill these rodents. But there are many type of rodents. Their mechanism of action is of many type. One type of rodenticides are anticoagulant. As we are medical students, we very well know what is anticoagulant. Anticoagulant simply means that it blocks the coagulation pathway, which result in bleeding disorder in the mice, which leads to its killing. Okay, so let's just see further. So, what is the most common anticoagulant rodenticide? Most common anticoagulant rodenticide. So, first one which is discovered first is warfarin. Warfarin is a multi-use product. It is used to kill rodents also, and it is also used in as a medicine also to reduce the blood clots, etc. It has medicinal value also. But most common anticoagulant rodenticides are brodifacoum, diaphasinon, chlorphacinon, bromadiolone, warfarin, etc. Most of these products come in very bright colors, very bright green, blue, etc. in colors. Okay, actually, now why we are discussing here in veterinary form these anticoagulant rodenticide, because these anticoagulant rodenticides are misunderstood by our pets as their food. As we all know, they have very poor color vision, so just kibble on these products. They're also like small pellets. They thought that it is their food and they end up eating it, and we see in our veterinary practices it's poisoning cases. The dog and cats get poisoned by anticoagulant rodenticides. So it is very important for us to know the names of these products also, because if we know the name of these products, we know about these anticoagulant rodent, able to save our animal, and the time which are wasted to just discover the name, concentration, lethal value, etc. from the environment protection agency, etc. can be saved. And as we all know that in poisoning cases, even minutes has a value to save the patient. Okay, so let's discuss further. Okay, now let's see about these products. So first is anticoagulant rodenticides types. Okay, so it's just a very small line which we should know, that all anticoagulant rodenticides have basic coumarin and indane-dione nucleus. Okay, and don't go too much deep, you just remember that this have basic coumarin or indane-dione nucleus. Okay, now we have three type of anticoagulant. One is first generation, next is intermediate, and third is second generation. Now what is first generation anticoagulant? First generation simply means that it is discovered first. It is discovered around, I think, 1950s. First product is warfarin. Warfarin, pindone, comofrol, comachlor, isovaleryl indane-dione, all are first generation, and they are require multiple feeding to result in toxicity, and they are less toxic. Okay, now what happened, these mice develop resistance for these first generation anticoagulants. It simply means that we are no longer able to kill mice with warfarin. Okay, next generation anticoagulant were discovered, that is intermediate anticoagulant. They are more toxic than first generation. This is chlorphacinon and diaphasinon. But soon we learned that mice has cross resistance for this product also, for intermediate anticoagulant also. That simply means that mice which are resistant to warfarin are also resistant to chlorphacinon. So we come up with second generation. As humankind is very much famous for inventions, as we just end up discovering for our needs anything, we have such a type of consciousness that we find solution somehow for anything. So we also find solution for this problem also. So we came up with second generation anticoagulant. These anticoagulants are very much potent, very much toxic, and they do not require multiple feeding. Its single dose is very much toxic to the rodents. These are Brodifacoum, bromadiolone, and diaphithiolone. Its latest, diaphithiolone is latest. Okay. But what happened? These second generation anticoagulants, if it is toxic to rodents, it is also very much toxic to our pets also. Okay, so pets, sometimes children also fall prey to this drug in these products. Okay, so okay, what so I think it is so okay, I hope it is clear that there is first generation anticoagulants, that is warfarin, that intermediate, that is chlorpheninone, diaphasinon, then second generation, that is brodifacoum, bromadiolone, and diaphethylone. Okay, and the concentration of brodifacoum and bromadiolone in the bait available as pellet or blocks is usually only 0.005%, and for diaphethylline it is more or less, that is 0.0025%. Okay, so this is all about anticoagulant rodenticides types. Now let's see its mechanism of action. Okay, you must be wondering that we know that it is anticoagulant rodenticide, its mechanism of action must be that they block coagulation pathway. But as we are veterinarian, we are science people, we must know deep within to know the treatments, how to approach the things. We should know everything. Okay, so now we will discuss its mechanism of action. These anticoagulant rodenticides actually inhibit the enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase. This is very very important, that it inhibit the enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase. It do not inhibit vitamin K, it inhibit the enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase, which convert oxidized vitamin K into reduced vitamin K. Okay, they block this enzyme. Actually what actually I will just give you a small glimpse. Okay, we will discuss it later on, but I will just giving a glimpse. You just see this picture here. Okay, you can see here it's written that gamma carboxylase. This gamma carboxylase enzyme is used in intrinsic coagulation pathway. What it do? It is used in intrinsic as well as extrinsic coagulation pathway. What it does? Okay, gamma carboxylase just convert factors 2, 7, 9, and 10 into its activated form. But to do this, it required reduced vitamin K. Okay, actually it's very simple. It takes some electron from vitamin K and it deliver it to these factors, and these factors become activated. Okay, you just remember, just to know the grasp, you just think like this, that this vitamin K give current to gamma carboxylase, and this gamma carboxylase gave further current to factors and they get activated. Okay, and when this vitamin K lose its current, it get converted to oxidize. To gain its current, it required enzyme epoxide reductase, which is inhibited by this. Okay, I hope it is clear that vitamin K has very crucial role to play in the coagulation pathway. Okay, now let's see further. For those who are very much interested to know the whole concept, as I just don't get satisfaction learning few things, like if I know that it is vitamin K epoxide reductase, I just want to go deep within. For those who want to know more deeper, they can move further. For those who are just okay that it kill it, sorry, and those who are okay that it inhibit the enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase, they are no need to just see these slides further. Okay, so now I will discuss about coagulation pathway. Okay, first of all, whenever there is break in endothelium, then what happens? Platelets get activated. Platelets immediately rush towards that break and they get adhere there. So first of all, platelet will adhere. When it adhere there, it release some product. What it release? It release the coagulation factors. Okay, and after releasing coagulation factors, intrinsic and extrinsic pathway will follow, and aggregation will happen and clot will form. Okay, so platelet activation simply means three things. First is adhesion, then is release of cofactors, and then is aggregation. Okay, so now next see what is intrinsic pathway and extrinsic pathway. It is very very easy. Okay, you have no need to learn anything, you will just grasp my words. Okay, Okay, now what is intrinsic pathway and what is extrinsic? Intrinsic simply mean endothelial injury, okay, and extrinsic simply mean tissue injury. So first we will see intrinsic. Okay, just see what is intrinsic pathway. Actually, what will happen in intrinsic pathway, whenever there is endothelial injury, then factor 12 will get converted to factor 12a. Factor 12 is also known as Hagman factor. Now go in reverse counting, okay. Factor 12, after factor 12, factor 11. Factor 11 will get converted to factor 11a. Now miss the 10. Miss the 10 factor, okay. Go reverse, then 9 will get converted to 9a. Hope it is clear. Then 12 to 12a, then 11 to 11a, then miss the 10, then 9 will get converted to 9a. Now come towards extrinsic pathway. In extrinsic pathway, tissue injury will happen. Tissue injury can happen due to multiple reasons like bacterial endotoxins. Now tissue factor will release. This is tissue thromboplastin, okay. It convert factor 7 to factor 7a. Hope it is clear. In intrinsic, 12 to 11 and then miss the 10. Now 9 to 9a. And toward extrinsic, it's 7 to 7a. Now which you have missed? What you have missed? 10. Now just 10 to 10a. But to convert to 10 to 10a, we required factor 7, 8, 9 and 10. You can see clearly here 7 from extrinsic pathway, 9 from intrinsic and 8 as cofactor. So to activate 10 we required 7, 8, 9. It's very simple counting. 7, 8, 9 is required to activate 10. Now when 10 will get converted to 10a, what will happen? This 10a along with 5 plus 5, 10. So 5 and 10 will come together and they will convert prothrombin to thrombin. Prothrombin is factor 2 converted to 2a, that is thrombin. Now this 2a convert fibrinogen to fibrin and clot will form. I hope it is clear, okay. You just see through this slide multiple times and you will get the. Okay, so you might be wondering that we didn't mention anything about vitamin K in this coagulation pathway. So first let's see vitamin K cycle, then we will combine all these things to understand the concept much better. Okay, so what is vitamin K cycle? Actually, vitamin K cycle, it is a cycle by which only a small amount of vitamin K is recycled again and again in the reaction so that the dietary requirement of vitamin K decreased many times. Okay, actually how vitamin K cycle works, I just want to tell you that like cofactor 2, 7, 9 and 10, they all require gamma carboxylation to get activated, as we have seen in internal cascade that factor 7 get converted to 7a or 9 get converted to 9a. All these process, when it is getting activated, they require vitamin K during their conversion. Okay, so let's see this in detail. It's very clear here. Actually what happened, we have vitamin K in the liver, then vitamin K get reduced by the help of enzyme quinone reductase. In this process it get reduced with the help of NADPH, and NADPH get converted to NAD and vitamin K hydroquinone is formed. This is reduced form of vitamin K. This reduced form of vitamin K hydroquinone, is used in the coagulation pathway by enzyme gamma carboxylase. This gamma carboxylase enzyme donate one electron to the all these proteins which we have seen like cofactors 7, 2, 7, 9 and 10. This vitamin K hydroquinone give electron with the help of enzyme gamma carboxylase to these cofactors and they get activated, they get carboxylated and vitamin K get converted to vitamin K epoxide. Okay, these factors get activated and coagulation pathway will go on. But vitamin K hydroquinone get oxidized and convert to vitamin K epoxide. Now, this vitamin K epoxide will not excrete. Instead of that, it will again get recycled with the help of enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase. Now, vitamin K epoxide will convert to vitamin K again and cycle will go on. But what happened? This warfarin, this blocks the enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase. Now vitamin K epoxide is no more able to convert to vitamin K and this breaks the cycle, and ultimately it when all the vitamin K hydroquinone available in the body will get exhausted, the coagulation will hinder. So this is how warfarin affects the, or these anticoagulant rodenticide affects the vitamin K cycle. I hope it is clear. And this is the products like Decon, which is used very much in America for killing of the rodent. These vitamin K antagonists like dicamolone and warfarin, they inhibit the coagulation through antagonism of action of vitamin K by inhibiting the enzyme epoxide reductase. Okay, I hope it is clear. Actually, you don't need to remember much in this chapter. You just remember about anticoagulant rodenticide, their types. That is, it is first generation, intermediate, and second generation. First generation, a simpler one, that is warfarin, which require multiple feeding. Second generation, I'm sorry, intermediate, it is chlorpheninone, diapheninone. They are also not very much toxic. Then we have second generation, that is Brodifacoum, bromadiol, and etc. And they are very potent, toxic in non-target species also. And most of the poisoning cases in your vet practice will come from Brodifacoum, etc. Okay, and just remember that they just block the enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase, and by this method they are act as anticoagulant rodenticides. Okay, now I will again come with next topic, that is part 2 of anticoagulant rodenticides. We will discuss and elaborate about the poisoning, about its symptom, diagnosis, treatment aspect. Till then, thanks.